My name is Carrie Marquette, and I'm 42 years old. People love to say money changes you. I don't think money changes you. I think money reveals you. And the truth is, my father was revealed to me long before the numbers ever got big, long before our mechanic shop became a multi-million-dollar operation that everyone suddenly wanted to claim as family legacy. Back when I was a kid, my father, John Marquette, was already a fixture in our town. A heavy diesel mechanic, 64 now, with hands permanently stained by grease and steel. He could listen to an engine cough once and tell you exactly what was wrong with it. People respected him, trusted him. I worshipped him. Every weekend, I sat on an upside-down bucket in his workshop, watching him work like it was some kind of sacred ritual. He'd toss me small jobs, holding a flashlight, passing a wrench, and I'd do them with almost painful focus, desperate to be useful, desperate to be seen. I didn't realize then that I was competing for something I could never earn. Because in our family, love had already been assigned. My older sister, Michelle Marquette, is 48. She took the respectable path, university, accounting, a clean office job in the city. She built a life that looked impressive at dinner parties, a husband, kids, and a house that always smelled like lemon cleaner and quiet judgment. She despised the workshop. Not just disliked it, despised it. She was embarrassed that our dad fixed trucks for a living. She'd wrinkle her nose when I came home with oil under my fingernails. She used to say things like, "Kari, why are you doing that? That kind of work is beneath us." The way she said beneath always stung. But here's what hurt the most. Despite Michelle's open contempt for our father's profession, Dad adored her. People assume favoritism comes from effort or loyalty. In our family, it came from fear. When Michelle was 15, she got pneumonia so severe that she ended up hospitalized for weeks. The doctors were grim. My mother, Helen, barely slept, working brutal night shifts at the hospital, then sitting at Michelle's bedside during the day. My father practically moved into that hospital room. Michelle clung to him constantly. "Dad, don't leave," she'd whisper. So he didn't. Even after she recovered, something shifted. Their bond hardened into something immovable, like a lock snapping shut. And I was left standing on the other side. At first, I told myself I was imagining it, that I was being dramatic, that love didn't need to be measured or divided. Then came the day my school proved that I wasn't invisible to everyone. I'd won an academic award, a real one, the kind where they call your name, the kind you walk across a stage for while the room applauds. I was proud, nervous, excited in a way I didn't let myself feel often. When I told my parents, my mother hugged me tightly. My father smiled and said, "That's my girl." Those 3 words lit something hopeful in me. The school invited parents to attend the ceremony. I already knew my mom might not make it. She was exhausted, always coming off night shifts, but I looked at my dad with quiet expectation. He hesitated. His eyes flicked toward my mother, like he wanted an escape. Mom asked, "John, can you go?" He cleared his throat. I told Michelle I'd play basketball with her. Something sank in my chest. Mom snapped, "Basketball can wait. Take Michelle with you and come to the ceremony." Dad nodded, clearly irritated, but he agreed. The night before, Mom reminded him again, firmly this time. She even set 5 alarms on his phone. Michelle pouted at the dinner table. "So you're canceling on me for that?" Dad tried to soothe her. "We can play next week." "But I was looking forward to father-daughter time," she said, glancing at me like I was stealing something that belonged to her. Mom scolded her sharply. "Your sister earned something. Show some empathy." Michelle shrugged. She already knew how this would end. The next day, I scanned the auditorium over and over, my heart jumping every time the doors opened. When my name was called, I walked onto the stage, applause filling the room. I smiled for the principal, but my eyes searched the crowd for my father. He wasn't there. After the ceremony, I texted my mom. Dad never came. She called immediately. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." Her voice went tight. "That's impossible. I set 5 alarms. His car isn't home." For the first time, disappointment twisted into something colder. Fear. When I got home, I stepped straight into chaos. My parents were shouting, voices echoing through the hallway. My mom was furious. My dad looked defensive, cornered. I stepped forward. "Dad, you didn't come to the ceremony. Are you okay?" He mumbled an apology without meeting my eyes. Lost track of time. Things came up. Mom exploded. "Tell the truth. Why didn't you show up?" Before he could answer, the door opened. Michelle walked in casually, eating an ice cream. My mom stared at her. "Michelle, where were you and your father when your sister needed you?" Michelle shrugged. "I wanted ice cream, so we went to get some first." My stomach dropped. "And then we drove to her school," she added, unfazed. But it was over. Came home. Mom looked stunned. You skipped her award ceremony for ice cream? That's when my father said the words that changed how I saw him forever. It's not a big deal, he said. It's just an award ceremony. There will be more. Michelle wanted ice cream. The room went quiet. My achievement, something I'd worked so hard for, was reduced to an inconvenience. I stood there, certificate still tucked inside my backpack, feeling something inside me crack. I didn't want to make it worse. I didn't want to cry in front of them. So I did what I'd learned to do best. I smiled, barely. It's okay, Dad. Don't worry about it. The lie tasted bitter. In my bedroom, the moment the door shut, I collapsed onto the bed and cried until my chest hurt. My mom came in quietly and wrapped an arm around me. She didn't rush me. She just stayed. I know it hurts, she said softly, but you earned that award. Nothing takes that away. Her words helped, but they couldn't erase the realization settling deep in my bones. This wasn't about one ceremony. It was about a pattern, a lifetime of moments where I mattered less. And as I lay there, staring at the ceiling, I didn't know it yet, but that night planted a truth that would one day tear our family apart. No matter how much I built for my father, I was never his first choice. If childhood teaches you who you are in a family, adulthood teaches you what that really costs. By the time I turned 23, I had already made my choice. I wasn't going to beg for my father's approval anymore. I was going to earn it. I enrolled in automobile engineering, not because Michelle thought it was respectable, but because it felt like the only place my father and I spoke the same language. Engines made sense. Systems made sense. Hard work made sense. And when I officially joined the workshop full-time, something shifted, at least on the surface. Back then, the shop was barely surviving. 2 part-time mechanics, 1 battered service car, and annual revenue hovering around $250,000. Dad stayed on the floor, hands-on as always. I took on the office, the planning, the growth. For the first time in my life, I felt needed. Over the next decade, I poured everything into that business. I streamlined operations, built client relationships, expanded services, hired people who believed in what we were building. Slowly, painfully, the shop grew. Then it exploded. 35 employees, 15 service vehicles, nearly $7 million in revenue this past year. People in town stopped calling it John's Little Garage. They started calling it Marquette Automotive Group. And quietly, dangerously, I started believing something. That one day, it would be mine. Not because I was entitled to it, but because I had built it. My father seemed proud, at least when other people were watching. He bragged about the numbers, about my kid running the place. But at home, nothing changed. Michelle still received his attention, his praise, his protection, despite never setting foot in the shop, despite openly mocking the grease and long hours I lived in. And then, the marriage collapsed. My parents' divorce didn't come as a shock. The arguments had been escalating for years. Mom grew tired of defending me alone. Dad grew defensive, distant, resentful. He filed, just like that. What did shock me was how quickly he moved on. Within months, there were younger women. Always younger, always temporary. Until suddenly, there was Olivia. She was 30 years old, barely older than some of our junior staff. And 5 months after the divorce, Dad summoned Michelle and me to dinner. He called it important. Those words always meant danger. We sat at the table in tense silence. I felt a knot tightening in my stomach, some instinct screaming that whatever was coming wouldn't be good. Dad cleared his throat. Olivia and I got married. The words landed like a dropped plate. Michelle blinked, surprised, but quickly masked it. I sat frozen. He hadn't invited us, hadn't told us, hadn't even warned us. Then he smiled. I'm very happy. I forced a nod. Before we could process that, he continued, voice shifting into something formal, calculated. I've been thinking about the future of the business. My pulse quickened. This was it, I thought, the moment all those years were leading toward. Dad turned to me first. Kari, since you're not married yet and you don't have children, I think it's best you forget about inheriting the company. I felt like the air had been sucked from the room. He turned to Michelle. I've decided to pass the entire business to your sister. The world tilted. I stared at him, unable to process what I'd just heard. What? Michelle has a family, he continued calmly. She needs stability. I believe she can take the company forward. My hands clenched under the table. I built this business with you, I said slowly. I dedicated my life to it. You can continue working there, he replied, dismissive, under your sister. Something inside me cracked, clean and final. I looked at Michelle, desperate for even a flicker of resistance. She wouldn't meet my eyes. That was when I understood. This wasn't just favoritism, it was disposability. I stood up. Fine. And for the first time in my life, I walked away from my father without trying to make him understand. That night, I went home shaking and called the one person who hadn't failed me. My boyfriend, Ethan. He listened. He didn't interrupt, didn't defend anyone, didn't tell me to calm down. He just said quietly, "You don't have to carry this anymore." That was the moment I stopped grieving and started planning. There's a strange clarity that comes after betrayal. Once the shock wears off, once the denial dissolves, what's left isn't chaos, it's focus. The morning after that dinner, I walked into the workshop like I always did. Same smell of oil, same rhythm of engines firing up, same people nodding at me for direction. Nothing had changed, except everything had. I stood in my office, looking at the framed photos on the wall, Dad and me in front of the shop years ago, grinning like partners. Back then, I believed effort earned loyalty. Now I knew better. I didn't announce my plans. I didn't threaten or rage. I did what I'd spent 10 years learning to do. I assessed, I prepared, I moved quietly. Within weeks, I filed the paperwork for my own company. No dramatics, no social media posts, just a clean legal break. And then I started making calls. Not to steal anyone, just to be honest. I told clients exactly what had happened, that my father planned to hand the entire business to Michelle, that I'd be stepping away, and that I was launching my own shop. I braced for rejection. Instead, something unexpected happened. They followed me. One by one, they told me the same thing. "You're the one who built this. You're the one we trust. We want to work with you." Some of Dad's employees approached me quietly too, nervous, loyal, afraid. They didn't want to jump ship yet, but they wanted to know if there would be a place for them. I told them the truth. If you decide to come, the door will be open. When I finally handed my resignation letter to my father, he was stunned. "You're abandoning the company at a critical time," he snapped. "This is irresponsible." I didn't argue. I just left. Within months, the fallout began. Clients disappeared. Revenue dipped. Suppliers started calling me instead of them. The shop, once thriving, started bleeding slowly. And that's when the accusations began. My phone lit up with angry messages. From Dad, from Michelle. They called me selfish, disloyal, a traitor. Michelle accused me of sabotage. "You took everything," she wrote. "You destroyed Dad's life." The irony was sharp enough to cut. Meanwhile, another storm was brewing. Ethan's ex-girlfriend, Lila, surfaced out of nowhere. She began spreading rumors, telling people I had stolen the business, that I manipulated clients, that I'd turned my own family into villains to boost my image. It hurt, not because it was true, but because it was loud. For a moment, I wondered if maybe I was too tired to fight all of it. Then Ethan reminded me why I started. "You didn't steal anything," he said. "You built it." So I kept going. My business grew faster than I'd imagined. The clients were loyal, the work was steady, the team believed in me. And somewhere along the way, I stopped looking over my shoulder. I was building something new, something mine. And I knew, deep down, that my father's anger wasn't about betrayal. It was about control slipping through his fingers. The invitation came 3 months later. A text from my father, short and carefully neutral. "Let's have dinner. We need to talk. No fighting. Just family." I stared at the screen longer than I should have. Part of me knew better, knew that nothing in our family ever happened without strings. But another part, the old, stubborn part that still wanted a father, wondered if this was finally an apology. Ethan saw my hesitation. "You don't owe them anything," he said gently. "I know," I replied, "but I need to hear it out loud, from him." So I went. The moment I walked into my father's house, my stomach dropped. Michelle was already there, sitting at the table, waiting. It wasn't a dinner. It was an ambush. We ate in strained silence, silverware scraping plates, like a countdown. My father finally cleared his throat, the same way he always did before delivering something that would hurt me. "I'm disappointed in how things turned out," he began. I held my breath. "The business is struggling," he continued. "The family is hurting." Michelle jumped in immediately. "Because you left. You took most of the clients with you." I set my fork down slowly. "They followed me. I didn't force anyone." Dad sighed heavily. "That's not the point." It finally clicked. This wasn't about fairness. It wasn't about regret. It was about money. "I want you to come back," he said. "We'll forgive and forget. You can help your sister get things back on track." I laughed, once, sharp and humorless. "Under her?" I asked. "Yes," he said without hesitation. Michelle crossed her arms. "You owe us, Carrie. This is your responsibility." That's when Dad said the quiet part out loud. "I need the income," he admitted. "This business is how I sustain my lifestyle. Olivia already left because I can't support her anymore." There it was. Not love, not family, not legacy. Lifestyle. Something inside me went still. You didn't invite me here to make things right, I said calmly. You invited me here to save you. Dad frowned. Stop being selfish. That word, selfish, after 10 years of sacrifice. I stood up. I'm done, I said. I won't fix a mess you created by erasing myself. They started shouting as I walked out. I didn't look back. That night, I blocked their numbers. For the first time in my life, I chose peace over permission. 6 months passed. Not the dramatic kind of time you see in movies. No sudden forgiveness, no tearful reunions. Just quiet, steady days, stacking on top of each other, each one proving something I'd never been allowed to believe before. I was capable on my own. My business didn't just survive, it thrived. Clients referred other clients. The team grew stronger. The numbers climbed higher than I'd ever projected in those early, terrifying weeks after I left. I hired carefully, led honestly, and slept better than I had in years. For the first time, success didn't come with conditions. Ethan watched the transformation up close. One night, sitting across from me at our kitchen table, he reached for my hand and said, "You're lighter." I laughed softly. I think I finally put something down I've been carrying my whole life. We talked about the future, slowly, intentionally. Marriage wasn't a pressure point anymore. It was a shared horizon. We agreed on our own timeline, free from my father's voice echoing in the background. On the other side of town, everything unraveled. I didn't hear it from them. I'd blocked every channel, but family friends filled in the gaps. Michelle couldn't manage the business. She didn't understand the operations, the relationships, the rhythm. Clients kept leaving. Vendors lost confidence. Dad tried to intervene, but he was distracted, angry, bitter, desperate. Eventually, he sold what was left of the shop to a larger company. It didn't bring him peace. The money barely covered his losses. And whatever he did get, Olivia took most of it during the divorce. When I heard that, I didn't feel satisfaction. Just closure. My relationship with my mother grew stronger than ever. She never asked me to reconcile, never pressured me to be the bigger person. She understood something my father never did. Fairness isn't betrayal. Michelle eventually returned to accounting. Back to what she actually knew. We don't speak much now. When we do, it's polite and distant. Two people connected by blood, not trust. As for my father, I don't hate him, but I don't chase him anymore. Because the truth is this: I didn't destroy the family business. I simply stopped holding it up alone. What I built now stands on its own foundation. Strong, honest, and unburdened by the need to prove my worth to anyone. I learned that legacy isn't something you inherit. It's something you choose. And I chose myself.